We need two identical masks that we're gonna put on top of each other and then crochet it together on the edge. And this way we can fill it with beans or pebbles or something. And we're crocheting in vertical rows like this with single crochet. I'm using super fine cotton size 1 and a 3mm hook. We're gonna start here with the first row, then increase on both sides, and then we crochet regular rows with no increase, then decrease on one side of the row while keeping it straight up here, then we increase on one side of the row, and then once again straight rows with no increase, and finish up with decreases on both sides of the row. So we're going to start with a slip knot, and then we chain 9. And we go into the second chain from the hook and make our first stitch, single crochet. And we continue 1 single crochet into every stitch. We chain 1, turn over. Our chain is a turning chain and we don't crochet into it. So the first stitch is right here. And we make 2 single crochet in the first stitch. And then 1 into the next. Continue to the end of the row. And into the last stitch we make 2 single crochet. Chain 1 and turn over. And we're going to continue to increase with 1 stitch on each side of the row until we have 7 rows in total, including the first row. So now I've made 7 rows, 2, 4, 6, and the first row here, 7. Chain 1, and now we're going to make the straight part of the mask. So just 1 single crochet into every stitch. And we're going to do that for 13 rows. Now I've made my 13 regular rows with no increase. And as you can see now, we are going to continue with no increases on one side of the row, and then we decrease on the other side. And now we're going to decrease on this side of the row. So we're going to start by crocheting the first 2 stitches together with a single crochet. So into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. And now 1 stitch into the next stitches on the row. So at the end of the row, chain 1, turn over, 1 stitch into every stitch, and you're going to stop when you have 2 stitches left. Now you have 2 stitches left and you crochet those 2 together. So when you have decreased on one side of the row for 6 rows, you're going to stop and chain 1 and turn over. And now you're going to, instead of decreasing on this side of the row, you're going to increase so that the row goes like this. Now we've gone here, and now we're going to go like that, so the opposite direction. So the exact same thing, but instead of making a decrease, we make an increase. So we start with 2 single crochet in the first stitch, and then finish the row, 1 stitch into every stitch, chain 1, turn over, 1 stitch into every stitch. So the last stitch, 2 single crochet into the same stitch, chain 1, turn over, 2 single crochet into the first stitch, and this is what you're going to continue to do until you have 6 rows of increase. And this is now the 6th row of increase. So into the last stitch I make 2 single crochet, chain 1 and turn over. So now we've made that V. This is for the nose. And now we are going to finish the same way as we started, but opposite. So 13 rows of regular crochet, no increase, no decrease, and then finish with 7 rows of decrease. After having turned over, I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into every stitch. I'm going to do that for 13 rows. Now I've made the 13 rows of regular crochet, and now comes the last part where we are decreasing on both ends of the row. And you do that until you have 7 rows. So crocheting the first 2 stitches together. So when you have 2 stitches left on your row, you crochet those together. Chain 1, turn over, crochet the first 2 stitches together, crochet the last 2 stitches together, and at the end we want to end up with 8 stitches, because that's what we started with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have decreased here, and now I'm just gonna finish the row with no decrease. So now we have 2 identical masks, and at this point, if you wanted to add some text or make some embroidery or something, you could do that. I think I'm gonna do that just to try something different. I'm just going to place them so that the right side is against each other, although they are identical, so there's not really a right or back side, but I'm crocheting so that the back of the embroidery is facing out, and this part is just really random. I'm just putting them together and then slip stitching the edges together. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure not to crochet too tightly, and you can kind of go into those holes that are between the rows. And if you want to make single crochet, you could also do that. It would just create a thicker edge, so the result is going to be a little bit different. So when it's possible, around this part, or maybe a little bit sooner, you're gonna flip it so that the right side comes out. You're gonna just press it through the hole here, and then you're gonna use your fingers on the inside of the edge to sort of straighten out the edge. So it doesn't look like this. We want it to be smooth, so kind of run your finger through the edge all the way around. First I'm gonna measure the length and then measure around my head, so I have these 2 measurements. This is about 19, and then I have my head. I measure around the head where the eyes are, above the ears. So you subtract your head measurement with the length. So now I take some 5mm wide elastic and measure out this measurement. So for the elastic band, we're going to make double crochet. So I'm going to make chainless foundation with double crochet, and of course you can also make chains. I do this so that I can make sure that I have the right width. Then you chain 2 and turn over, and we go into the first stitch with double crochet. Our chains at the end of the row is not a stitch. 8 stitches, chain 2, and then we're just gonna crochet back and forth like this. And I'm thinking that I need about double the length of the elastic. So I've chained 1, and I'm just gonna slip stitch through the sides of the row. And you want to make about 2 or 3 stitches per double crochet row. And actually, if you wanted to, you could put the elastic through now and then kind of crochet around it. If you want it to be even easier, you can pin it at the end so that it doesn't go anywhere. Of course, you could also add the elastic at the very end, and you can use the safety pins to sort of shove it through. But I think this is going to be a lot easier, and this way I can kind of see how it's going to look at the end. And yes, now I'll just continue, and then I'll come back once I've crocheted the side. So first of all, we're gonna, of course, close this. And then I just go through each stitch. And then here at the middle, I'm going to sew through the elastic. Okay, so now that we have the elastic in the middle, so I'm just gonna go through the elastic, sew through it, and I'm gonna go a little bit down and once again through, just to sew it in place. And then you can go up again, go through a few times. It's easier if you have a needle that is pointy. I don't have a needle that is pointy, but it's gonna make it easier to sew the elastic in place. Just kind of focus on the middle of the mask. Sew through. Now we're going to fill up the mask. I found some small rocks outside. I've cleansed them and washed them and sorted them to make sure that they were not too small and also not too sharp. Even if they are too small, if they are too small, they will just come through the stitches and I can just throw it outside. So yeah, this is gonna be exciting to see how this is gonna work out, if it's gonna be distributed in the mask and if it's gonna be comfortable. I have no idea, I haven't tried it with this before. Of course you can use beans or something else, but they will go bad eventually. Okay, so we are slowly getting there. And I have about 330 grams of stones, but I think I read that you're supposed to kind of have about 40 grams. But it depends on your comfort, what is comfortable to you. If you wanted to make the strap look even better, you could add it like this and then sew it in place like this. So I am closing up the mask right here, and once I get to the middle, I will add the other strap. So I can just sew up and down and then take the strap, make sure it's not twisted. And now I can sew up and down, and I will also sew through the elastic, of course. And once you start to do that, you will also be able to move the safety pin. So as soon as you've grabbed the elastic with your needle, you can remove the safety pin.